I heard my name. Not spoken. Typed. A soft clicking sound from the other room. Followed by a pause. Then a whisper. We'll finalize it without him. Silence again. I stood in the hallway, not moving. The light under the office door flickered once. A chair shifted. Papers sliding across wood. I don't know why I stayed there. I don't know why I didn't walk in. But something about the tone. The way my name sounded in that sentence. It didn't belong. That's when I realized something was very wrong. I had been working for them for 18 years. My parents owned a small logistics company. Nothing flashy. Just steady work. Contracts, shipments, long hours. The kind of business that doesn't get noticed unless something goes wrong. I started there when I was barely out of school. No formal role at first. Just helping. Learning. Doing whatever needed to be done. Over time, I became necessary. I handled operations. Vendor negotiations. Payroll adjustments when things got tight. I knew every contract, every client history, every weak point in the system. They trusted me with everything. At least, that's what I thought. The routine never changed much. I'd arrive before everyone else. Coffee. Emails. Review schedules. Fix whatever had quietly broken overnight. By mid-morning, the office would fill. Drivers checking in. Phones ringing. Paperwork stacking. And my father would sit in his office, door half open, asking for updates without looking up. My mother handled accounts. Quiet. Precise. Always behind her desk, rarely making mistakes. We didn't talk much outside of work anymore. But inside the business, everything felt structured. Predictable. Until recently. It started small. Conversations that stopped when I entered the room. Documents being closed too quickly. My access to certain files, delayed. Not removed. Just, slower than usual. I noticed it once. Then twice. Then I stopped ignoring it. One afternoon, I asked my mother about a contract I couldn't open. She didn't even look at me. System update, she said. It happens. Her tone was flat. Final. I nodded. Didn't push. Later that week, I saw my father reviewing payroll changes I hadn't approved. That had never happened before. I stepped into his office. Did something change? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Just kept reading. Then, without looking at me, he said, "We're adjusting things. You've been overloaded." It sounded reasonable. Almost thoughtful. But something in the way he said it, like a script he'd already practiced, didn't match the situation. I wasn't overloaded. I was handling exactly what I always had. And no one had ever stepped in before. That night, I stayed late. No reason. No announcement. Just stayed. Around 9 p.m., the office was empty. Lights off except for the back office. Their office. The door was closed this time. That was new. I walked past it once. Slowly. Then again. No voices. Just low movement inside. Papers. A drawer opening. Then that same clicking sound. Typing. I didn't stop. Didn't listen this time. Just kept walking. But something settled in my chest. Not fear. Not anger. Something quieter. A question that didn't have a shape yet. The next morning, everything felt normal again. Too normal. My mother greeted me like nothing had changed. My father asked for updates the same way he always did. But the pattern had already shifted. And once you see that, you don't unsee it. So I stopped asking direct questions. Stopped reacting to small things. I answered what they asked. Did my work. Watched. Listened. And waited. Because whatever they were doing, it wasn't sudden. It had been building. Quietly. And I had just missed the beginning. So I stopped reacting. And I started watching. I didn't rush. That was the first decision I made. If something was changing, it wasn't happening overnight. And reacting too early would only close whatever I was trying to see. So I adjusted my routine. Came in earlier. Left later. Said less. And I paid attention to things I used to ignore. Small things. File names. Time stamps. Who printed what, and when. At first, it didn't look like anything. Just scattered details. Until one morning, I noticed a pattern. Every Friday, around 6:30 p.m., a set of documents was being printed from my father's office. Not invoices. Not delivery logs. Legal documents. I only caught it because I stayed late 3 Fridays in a row. The printer in the hallway had a memory queue. Most people didn't know that. I checked it once. Then again the next week. Same type of file. Different name each time. All labeled as revisions. No one mentioned them. No one asked me to review them. That had never happened before. I didn't open anything yet. Just observed. Collected times. Then I noticed something else. A new contact in my father's call logs. Same number. Repeated. Always late in the evening. Always short calls. I didn't recognize it. But I wrote it down. 2 days later, I had a reason to stay in the office longer than usual. A delayed shipment. Paperwork needed updating. By 8 p.m., everyone had left. Except my parents. Their office door was slightly open this time. I wasn't trying to listen. But when you're already paying attention, things come to you. He doesn't need to know yet. My mother's voice. Quiet. Controlled. My father responded, lower. It's cleaner this way. Once it's filed, it's done. A pause. Then paper moving. I walked past. Didn't stop. Didn't react. Just let the words sit. That night, I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car for a long time. Not thinking. Just organizing. Because whatever they were doing, it involved paperwork. Legal paperwork. And they didn't want me to see it. The next morning, I came in even earlier. Before anyone else. I went straight to the printer. Checked the queue. There it was. A file still stored from the night before. Ownership transfer, final draft. I didn't open it immediately. I stood there for a few seconds. Just looking at the title. Then I printed it. Slowly. Quietly. Page by page. It was longer than I expected. Legal language. Structured clauses. Names. Signatures. Dates. I read it once. Then again. Carefully. It wasn't complicated. It just took a moment to accept. They were transferring the business. All of it. Out of my name. Not partially. Not temporarily. Completely. The document listed a new ownership structure. My parents would retain control. But operational authority, future shares, everything tied to management, was being reassigned. To someone else. A relative. Someone who had never worked there. Someone who didn't even understand the business. My name was still in the document. But only in one place. A clause stating I had stepped down voluntarily from all operational and managerial responsibilities. No date filled in yet. No signature. But everything else, ready. Finalized. Waiting. I didn't feel anger. That came later, maybe. What I felt first was clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a temporary adjustment. This was planned. Carefully. Quietly. And I had been working inside it the entire time. I took the document. Went back to my desk. Scanned every page. Saved it. Twice. Then I checked the call logs again. The number from before. I searched it. It took less than a minute. A law firm. Local. Specializing in business restructuring. That explained the Friday prints. The evening calls. Everything aligned. By mid-morning, the office was full again. Phones ringing. People moving. Normal. My father asked for updates. My mother reviewed accounts. Nothing in their behavior had changed. Not even slightly. And that was the part that stayed with me. Not what they were doing. But how easily they continued like nothing was happening. Like I wasn't sitting 10 feet away, reading the final version of a decision they had already made about me. I didn't confront them, didn't ask questions, didn't even hint that I knew. Because at that point, it wasn't about understanding anymore. It was about timing. Confronting them would have ruined everything. I didn't print anything else that day. Didn't take more than I needed. One document was enough to understand the direction, but not enough to stop it. So I treated it like a starting point. That afternoon, I stayed focused on routine work. Emails, calls, logistics. Nothing changed on the surface. But underneath, I began mapping everything. Who had access? Who had authority? What could be changed, and what couldn't? The business wasn't just paperwork. It was systems, contracts, dependencies, and I had built most of them. That mattered. Because while ownership could be transferred on paper, control didn't move as easily. Not without friction. That night, I took the first real step. I created copies. Not just of the document, but of everything connected to it. Historical contracts, financial summaries, vendor agreements, anything that showed how the business actually functioned. I didn't take them from the office directly. I accessed backups. Old archives I had set up years ago when things were smaller, less structured. No one had touched those systems since. I downloaded everything, organized it, stored it in 3 separate places. One local, one external, one cloud-based. Not labeled clearly, not obvious, just safe. The next morning, I made a call. The number I had found, the law firm. I didn't introduce myself fully, just asked for confirmation. Do you handle ownership transfers for private businesses? The receptionist answered politely, yes. Are all parties required to sign before it becomes valid? A pause. Then, yes. All listed parties must sign. I thanked her. Hung up. That confirmed one thing. They couldn't complete it without me. Not legally. Which meant they were waiting for timing, for the right moment to present it, or to pressure me into signing. Either way, it wasn't finished yet. That gave me space, but not much. I needed someone on my side, not emotionally, legally, someone who could see what I was seeing, without assumptions. I contacted a lawyer I had worked with once before, not through the business, personally. A quiet meeting. Outside the office. No documents sent ahead of time. Just the printed file. He read it carefully. Didn't interrupt. Didn't react. When he finished, he placed it back on the table. They're preparing to remove you from operational control, he said. I nodded. He continued, but they haven't executed it yet. Without your signature, this doesn't hold. I know. He looked at me for a moment. Do you want to stop it? It wasn't a simple question. Stopping it would mean confrontation. Immediate. Messy. But letting it move forward, without preparation, would leave me exposed. I want to control the outcome, I said. He nodded slightly. Then he explained the options. Documentation. Preemptive filings. Notifications that could be triggered at the right time. None of it dramatic. Just structured. Quiet. Effective. We built a plan. Not rushed. Not complicated. Just precise. Over the next few days, I followed it step by step. Collected additional records. Verified financial trails. Confirmed that certain decisions had already been made without my authorization. Everything documented. Everything time-stamped. Meanwhile, the office stayed the same. My parents continued their routine. No urgency. No visible concern. They thought everything was still under control. That I hadn't noticed. That I wouldn't question it until it was too late. And that was the advantage. Because while they were waiting for the right moment, I was already preparing for it. By the end of the week, everything was in place. My lawyer had copies. External records were secured. And a formal response document, Drafted. Not filed yet. Just ready. I came into the office the following Monday like any other day. Coffee. Emails. Schedules. My father called me into his office around noon. The door closed behind me. There was a folder on his desk. Neatly placed. Aligned with the edge. He didn't open it immediately. Just looked at me. "We need to discuss some changes," he said. Calm. Measured. Like a routine update. My mother was already seated in the corner. Silent. Watching. I took a seat across from him. Didn't look at the folder. Didn't ask questions. Just waited. Because I already knew what was inside. And more importantly, I knew what came next. They thought it was just another day. It wasn't. My father opened the folder slowly. No rush. No hesitation. He turned it toward me, aligning it neatly with the edge of the desk. "Just a restructuring," he said. "We've been thinking about the future." I looked down at the pages. Same document. Same language. Only now, the final spaces were filled. Dates completed. Signature lines marked. Everything ready. My mother finally spoke. "It's better this way," she said quietly. "Less pressure on you." I nodded once. Not in agreement. Just acknowledgement. I let a few seconds pass. Then I asked, calmly, "And if I don't sign?" My father didn't answer immediately. He leaned back slightly in his chair. "We're not forcing anything," he said. "But this is the direction the company needs." The phrasing was careful. Prepared. Neutral on the surface. But underneath, it was clear. They expected compliance. Not discussion. I didn't argue. Didn't point out the inconsistencies. Didn't mention the clauses. I simply closed the folder. Placed it back in front of him. And said, "Then we should probably do this properly." That was the first moment something shifted. Not visibly. But enough. A small pause. A glance between them. They hadn't expected resistance to sound like agreement. My father frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" I stood up. Walked to the door. And opened it. Two people were already outside. My lawyer, and a representative from the regulatory office. Both calm. Both prepared. Neither surprised. I stepped aside and let them in. No one spoke for a few seconds. My mother's expression changed first. Not panic. Recognition. She understood immediately. My father didn't. Not yet. "What is this?" he asked. Still controlled. Still holding on to the idea that this was a misunderstanding. My lawyer placed a folder on the desk. Opened it. Inside were copies. Not just of their document. But of everything connected to it. Unauthorized payroll adjustments. Pre-signed clauses. Internal communications tied to the transfer. Time-stamped. Organized. Clear. "We're here to formalize a different process," my lawyer said. His tone was even. No accusation. Just procedure. The representative stepped forward next. "Based on the documentation provided," he said, "there are concerns regarding unauthorized restructuring actions and potential misrepresentation of managerial consent." He paused. Looked at my father. "We'll need to review all filings before any transfer can proceed." The room stayed quiet. No raised voices. No sudden movements. Just a shift in control. My father looked at the papers again. Then at me. For the first time, not as someone inside the system, but as someone outside it. "What are you doing?" he asked. I didn't answer immediately, because there wasn't much to explain. Everything was already on the table. "I'm making sure everything is accurate," I said. That was all. No emotion. No accusation. Just clarity. The process moved quickly after that. The proposed transfer was suspended. All related filings flagged for review. Financial records audited. Not aggressively. Just thoroughly. The kind of review that doesn't miss details. Within weeks, the structure of the business changed. Not through confrontation, but through correction. Operational control remained where it had always been, with documented authority, with oversight, and with protections in place that hadn't existed before. My parents stayed involved, but differently. More distance, less assumption. We didn't discuss what happened. Not directly. There wasn't a moment of apology or explanation. Just a quiet adjustment. The office returned to its routine. Phones ringing. Schedules moving. Work continuing. But something fundamental had shifted. Not in the business. In the understanding of it. I still arrived early. Still handled operations. Still did what I had always done. But now, everything was visible. Everything accounted for. And nothing moved without clarity. That evening, I left the office at the usual time. No urgency. No tension. Just, finished. I sat in my car for a moment before starting the engine. The same place I had sat weeks earlier. But it felt different now. Not because something had been won, but because something had been protected. There was no satisfaction in it. No sense of victory. Just quiet. That night, everything was quiet.